Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Cruz, and the purpose for this video will be to complete Monday's task. So looking at this calendar, in today's video we are going to be starting Chapter 4, and we are going to read the first 9 pages of Chapter 4, and we will be completing text appending question number 1. After I complete today's video, you can see this video once again, and I'll hyperlink it here where it says part 1 and part 2, so you could look forward to that. And then also if you want to see previous videos because you are a little behind, then earlier in this morning I posted this document on our Google Classroom where you can click the link that you would want to watch if you want to catch up with any of the readings with me. I know some of you are doing it independently, but I'm noticing those who are following along with these videos, so good job doing that, and it makes me happy that we are reading it together somehow. Okay, so if you notice, it seems like a little bit more reading this week, but it's really not. It's just that the font is a little bit bigger, so that's why it looks like it's more pages. But as usual in these recordings, we've been looking at the vocabulary words, and more as you get used to this, you should be doing this kind of on your own. But we have our first word, it's feigned, and feigned means pretended and faked. So like if you feign something, these are already kind of like two synonyms, right? But that means it means like you're faking something. So like if you're feigning a sickness, then maybe you're trying to get out of something because you don't want to do it. So you're pretending to be sick. Let's look to see if we see any other synonyms. So we have a sham and to put on or pretend. I like those. Simulate, that's kind of like that's a good one too. But I think I'm going to put sham and to pretend because I think that's new, right? Oh, pretend's already there. So let's put sham and put on. Like you're putting on a show, that kind of put on. Okay, as of right now, you guys are getting good at creating finding your own images. So if you want to pause it here and find your own image, then that's an option. I will look for one too. Okay. Sometimes I find better ones when I just do a Google search. Look at the images here. So like this little girl's faking an injury or faking a sickness. Looks like that little girl might be my best bet. Oh, this is a good one. When you fake an injury in sports, you see this a lot in soccer, right? They try to get the other person to get a red card or something. Classic. Okay, that's a good option. So at this time, if you would like to pause this video and do the same steps for patronize, it's when you act as a customer or user services. So if you're a patron, that means you are a regular. So for example, I like to patronize stores that are owned by families. So that means I like to go to places that are owned by families, not big corporations. So I try to go as much as I can. Okay, so you can pause to complete those steps. But for now, I'm going to move on. So our first question for Chapter 4 is going to be, how does Cassie feel at the beginning of the chapter and why? We have question number 2, why do the Logan children break their parents' rules? Let me just start choosing my highlighting colors. I'm going to start with orange for the first one. Remember, the colors don't matter. They're just how we're going to find evidence. So why do they break their parents' rules? I'm going to make that oh, we already used that one. Okay, let's try light blue. If you guys get bored too, you can pick custom colors. Okay, how does Mr. Morrison's and Stacy's relationship change in this chapter? So that's already kind of giving you a hint to look for a change. Trying to choose different colors. And then what does Mama do in response to the children breaking the rules? Okay, so that already kind of gives you a hint too that you're going to be looking for some rule breakages. Now we know we're going to go to page 9, so the next step is really making sure that I find where I'm going to stop. And it looks like here's my stopping place for chapter 9, so I'm going to highlight that green, that bright green. Okay. And from there, I'm ready to get started. So let's see how Cassie's feeling at the beginning of the chapter. We should kind of have an idea, because if you look back to yesterday's, or not yesterday, but last week's reading, chapter 3, you should be asking yourself what happened at the end. And we know that at the end, they get some creepy visitors. So if you haven't read about that, you should pause this and catch up first so that you don't get a little lost. But she gets some creepy visitors, and it makes her feel pretty scared. So we're going to see kind of the effects of that right now and see if anything happens with those creepy visitors. So let's get started. Cassie, what's the matter with you, girl? Big Ma asked as she thrust 3 sticks of dried pine into the stove to rekindle the dying morning fire. You sure are taking a sorrowful long time to churn that butter. Nothing, I muttered. Nothing. Big Ma turned and looked directly at me. You been moping around here for the past week like you got a whooping cough, flu, and measles all put together. I sighed deeply and continued to churn. Okay, so I'm going to pause there because that already tells me how she's feeling. So the fact that she's moping around, if you know what moping means, it means like you're moving around like you're really sad and something's bothering you and people can notice. And she's saying that she's looking like she's got all these sicknesses put together. Let's keep going. I sighed deeply and continued to churn. Big Ma reached out and felt my forehead, then my cheeks. Frowning, she put her hand away as Mama entered the kitchen. Mary, feel this child's face, she said. She seemed warm to you? That's kind of just showing us that she's so concerned that she thinks she might be sick. She's letting her mom know, like, that something might be wrong, right? Mama cupped my face in her thin hands. You feel sick, Cassie? No, How do you feel? All right, I said, still churning. Mama studied me with the same disturbed look Big Ma wore, and a tiny frown line appeared on her brow. Cassie, she said softly, fixing her dark eyes upon me. Is there something you want to tell me? I was on the verge of blurting out the awful truth about the bus and the men in the night, but then I remembered the pact Stacy had made us all swear to when I had told him, Christopher John, and Little Man about the caravan, and I said instead, No, ma'am, and began churning again. Abruptly, Mama took hold of the churning stick, her eyes searching mine. As she studied me, she seemed to ask me about something. Then the question faded, and she pulled away, lifting the lid of the churn. It looks ready now, she said with a sigh. Dip out the butter like I showed you and wash it down. I'll take care of the milk. Okay, so we're still looking for evidence of how she feels and why. So here we have like the why part, right? She's has the bus and the men in the night in her mind. She really wants to tell her mom, but then she had like that internal struggle because she promised her brother that she wouldn't say anything. And this is why, once again, you want to make sure that you're caught up with chapter 3 so that you can know what this is all about. I scooped the butter from the churning lid onto a plate and went through the curtain to the small pantry off the kitchen to get the molding dish. It had been placed on the high shelf under several other dishes, and I had to stand on the stool to get it. As I eased it out, Mama and Big Ma spoke softly in worried tones on the other side of the curtain. Something the matter with that child, Mary? She's not sick, Mama. There's all sorts of sick. She ain't right for going on over a week. She ain't sleeping right neither, restless and murmuring in her sleep all night long. And she won't hardly even go out to play, rather be in here helping us. Now you know that ain't like that child. There was a moment's pause, then Mama whispered, so I could hardly hear her. You think she could have seen? Oh, Lord, no, child, Big Ma exclaimed hastily. I checked in there right after they passed, and she was sound asleep. She couldn't have seen them old devils, the boys neither. Okay, so here we have more evidence on like how she's feeling, and we see that her grandma's really concerned because she's saying that she's noticing that she's not eating right and that she's not really sleeping correctly. She's talking throughout her sleep and being restless and won't go out to play. So that's really important. And we also learned that the Big Ma and Mama don't know that she saw the Night Riders the night before or the week before. So that's important too. Mama sighed. The boys, they're not themselves either. All of them, too quiet. Here it is Saturday morning and they're quiet as church mice. I don't like it, and I can't shake the feeling it's got something to do with Cassie! Without warning, I had lost my balance and with an absurd topple of my knee-high stool crashed upon the floor with the molding dish. Cassie, you hurt? Mama asked, stooping beside me. No, I mumbled, feeling very clumsy and close to tears. I knew that if I let the tears fall, Mama's suspicion that something was wrong would be confirmed, for I never cried about such a silly thing as a fall. In fact, I seldom ever cried. So instead of crying, I jumped up quickly and began to pick up the broken pieces of the dish. I'm sorry, Mama, I said. Okay, so we have more evidence of how she's feeling, right? We know that she has all of these feelings inside of her, and she's saying that she's close to tears, but she's at the point where she knows that if she cries, what's going to happen? Her mom's going to know something's wrong, so she's really holding back. That's all right, she said, helping me. When we swept the chips away with the long field straw broom, she told me, leave the butter, Cassie, and go on in with the boys. But Mama, I'll do the butter, now go on like I say. I stared up at Mama, wondering if she would ever know what we had done, then joined the boys who were sitting listlessly around the fire, absently listening to TJ. See, fellows, there's a system to getting out of work, TJ was expounding as I sat down. Just don't be round when it's got to be done. Only thing is, you can't let your folks know that's what you're doing. See, you should do like me. Like this morning, when Mama wanted to bring back them scissors she borrowed from Miss Logan, I ups and volunteers so she don't have to make this long trip down here, she being so busy and all. And naturally, when I got here, y'all wanted me to stay a while and talk to y'all. So what could I do? I couldn't be impolite, could I? And by the time I finally convince y'all I gotta go, all the work will be done at home. TJ chuckled with satisfaction. Yeah, you just have to use the old brain, that's all. So think about the advice he's giving. What is he giving advice on? How to get out of chores, right? So he's saying, like, I'm getting out of chores because I came over here, and by the time I go back, they're going to be done with all the chores. He was quiet a moment, expecting some comment on his discourse, but no one said a word. TJ's eyes roamed the length of the room, and he admonished, see, if you was smart like me, Stacy, you'd use the old brain to get the questions on the big test coming up. Just think, they're probably just sitting right here in this very room, waiting to be discovered. Stacy cast TJ an annoyed look, but did not speak. Y'all sure are a sorry lot this morning, TJ observed. A fellow's just wasting his know-how talking to y'all. Ain't nobody asked you to give it, said Stacy. Well, you don't have to get snippety about it, replied TJ haughtily. Again, silence prevailed, but that would not do for TJ. Say, how about we sneak down to that old Wallace store and learn how to do them new dances? Mama told us not to go down there, Stacy said. Or to go down there, Stacy said. You some mama's boy or something. You gotta do everything your mama tells. You go on if you wanna, said Stacy quietly, not rising to TJ's bait, but we staying here. Again, silence. Then TJ said, say, y'all hear the latest about them night men? Suddenly, all eyes turned from the fire and riveted themselves upon him. Our faces were eager question marks. We were totally in TJ's power. What about them? Stacy asked almost evenly. TJ, of course, intended to nurse the moment for as long as he could. You see, when a fellow's as smart as me, he gets to know things that other folks don't. Now, this kind of information ain't for the little ears of little kids, so I really shouldn't even tell y'all. Okay, let's pause right here. So at this point, you should be asking yourself if we're moving on to the next question already, which is really why do the Logan children break their parents' rules? Which, if you paid attention to, there's a little hint of which rule they might be breaking. So think about that for part 2.